Do you want to overpay or minimize your taxes? The reason for caring about taxes is just money. I know it's shallow, but we all know how important money is. And I'm sure you can imagine how saving a few hundred or $1,000 feels like. I also imagine, how much would suck to pay some extra $100 or $1,000, which you might actually be doing this whole time. On top of that, you should care about taxes because if you ever get into any type of business, whether it's real estate, so software as a service, e-commerce, or an OnlyFans, understanding the tax system would help you make better decisions for the future. Back to minimizing your tax payment. When I first started to research about taxes, I thought that the reason of why people overpaid was because there was just a lot of ignorance around taxes and that they are not taught anywhere. But after a while I concluded that the real reason why the people overpay their taxes is because you have to do a lot of independent study of the topic. You can't take advantage of the system if you don't know how it works, and to know how it works you have to study. To study means to be disciplined and to wrap your head around a lot of unnecessarily complex stuff in the tax system. When I started, I found everything I needed to understand how it worked. I found books that get updated every single year to keep up with the changing laws. I found tons of videos explaining everything, and the books I found explain every form, every schedule, and how to fill them up. These books pretty much explain everything. And I found people online that are always there to help anyone with tax questions they might have. The resources are there, but putting the time in to take advantage of them is what separates the people overpaying from the people that are making the tax system work for them. And they are not stressing out when the deadline is close because they don't understand anything. They are pretty much the opposite of that. So if you want to go the extra mile when supporting health, security, and education of the country, be my guest if you want to pay more taxes. But if you choose to put in the time and study, at the end of the video I'll tell you my personal recommendations on how to do that. Now, the objective of this video was to get people to care, not to explain anything, but I'm still gonna explain a couple things I consider are the most essential when learning about this stuff. One of them is the process that calculates the taxes you must pay. It starts with the Form 1040, the form that everybody has to fill up. It begins with your total income. That is taxable because not all income is taxable. For example, child support payments. Then there are some things called adjustments to income, which you subtract from your total income of the year. One of them, for example, is student loan interests, or 50% of the self-employment tax, which is a tax that every self-employed person must pay. After you subtract any adjustment to income you may claim, you're left with the adjusted gross income, AGI for short, which now has to be subjected to credits and deductions. There's one important thing about deductions. There is the standard deduction and there is the itemized deduction, and you can only take one. If you take the standard deduction, you may also claim what are called above-the-line deductions. The standard deduction is a fixed amount that varies depending on if you are blind, single, elderly, or married. For single people, the standard deduction for 2024 is $14,600. Some things you may claim if you took these standard deductions are dependents. An example of a dependent is a very elderly person that has no income, that lives with you, and you provide certain percentage of their income. One example of itemized deduction are medical expenses or home renovations. After subtracting the deductions, you are left with the taxable income, which now has to go through the tax brackets in order to get to the amount of taxes you owe the IRS. Now I'll explain the tax brackets. So now you have two choices. You can study. Unfortunately, it's not little what you have to study, but I'm sure you have read books in high school at some point if you're in your life, so it's nothing new. Or you can pay for help for the rest of your life. And there is one thing about tax professionals, and it is that they are like mechanics. They might suck, they might be trying to scam you, or they might be experts. You just won't know. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad to pay tax professionals. Actually, at some point, I would just pay someone forever. If I have enough money and my financial life is complex enough, yeah, I would let a professional handle my tax situation forever. Because it is pointless to study like you want to pursue a career as a CPA. It's just too time consuming. Now, as I said, I'm gonna give my personal recommendations to study all this mess. I recommend to read the For Dummies book. You can buy it or you can find it the pirate's way. I don't know, you choose. Now, regarding the Barbara Weltman book, this is how I suggest you use it. Whatever situation that happens in your life that affects your taxes probably has a fancy way to call it. So if Mr. Beast gives you $10,000, that would fall in the category of gift. So you go to the index of the Barbara Weltman book, or the For Dummies one, and you search for gifts, so you learn how to approach them. If any other situation happens, like an inheritance, a gambling loss, I don't know, someone crashed your car and it's destroyed, anything that might affect your taxes, you go to the index of these books, you find whatever word describes best what happened, and you read what the book has to say about it, so you know what to do now. There are also some other books that get into tricks and tips to pay less, but they are more complex, and I would suggest you understand the basics before getting into them. The tricks they share are the most overpowered ones.